In this video, we shall be going over the rest parameter and the spread operator, which were both introduced in ES6. And the reason why we are batching them together is because they have some similarities and some differences, which we shall go over in this video. My name is Kelvin. I'm a software developer based in Nairobi, Kenya, and my goal is to simplify technical documentations for you so that you may have an understanding of the tools that you're working with. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video. In case we mention any link in the video, you can always find it in the description section of this video. Let us jump right in. Before we proceed on to look at the REST functionality that was introduced in ES6, let us first get some definition out of the way. When we talk of parameters, this is basically names listed in a function definition. In this case, A and B are considered parameters of this function because they are listed in the function definition. But when we talk of arguments, these are actual values that are passed when you're calling a function. So with that out of the way, let us look at the REST parameters. I have defined a simple function called sum, and I'm passing in the parameters A and B. And the function does something very simple, just calculate the sum of the arguments that have been passed in, then return the results. So in this case, I'm passing in 1 and 2, and I'm getting a result of 3. But picture a scenario where we want the user to be able to pass in more than 2 arguments, basically an infinite number of arguments. In order for us to handle that, we need to use the REST param. The REST param basically allows us to represent an infinite number of arguments as an array. So instead of A and B, I can have the 3 dots, then REST. It is also important to note that the name is user defined. You can choose whichever name you deem fit in your context. In this case, we have 2 arguments passed in. Let us just access the index directly. So I'll have REST, index 0, then REST, index 1. And you can see we are getting the result. But if we need to handle an infinite number of arguments that are being passed, I think it is better if we use the reduce function. So instead of accessing the index or the values in the array using the index, we can use the reduce function to sum all the arguments that are passed into the function. So we can use REST, call the reduce method on it, previous plus current, then we have an initial value of 0. And you can see that we are getting the same result of 3. So we have the ability of passing in an infinite number of arguments now. And you can see that it is summing up. That is good. But before the introduction of the REST parameters, we used to use the arguments object, which is available in all non-arrow functions. So let us just prove this. So instead of using REST, we can take advantage of the arguments. Let us just console log the result. Before the REST parameter, we used to use the arguments object for us to have access to the infinite or indefinite number of arguments passed in a function. It had its own limitations. For instance, it is defined as array-like. It is 0 indexed as much as it has the length property. It did not have the array methods attached to it. So things like reduce, map, or are not attached to the arguments object. There are a few workarounds to that. And in case you want to learn more about this, you can check out my video on function arguments object to know more. I will be linking it up in the card above. Is when we are talking about the REST param, it is important to note that it needs to be the last item in the parameter list. For instance, we can have other parameters before it, A, B, and in this case, A and B will be 1 and 2. Then it will get the sum of 5 and 3 as the rest. So the rest parameter must be the last item in the parameter list. And you can see that we're getting 8, that is 5 and 3. In case you try to put it in any other place, it will throw an exception. So let us try to add it in the middle of A and B. And you can see rest parameter must be last formal parameter. Yeah, so that is all you need to know about the rest parameter in ES6. Just like the rest parameter, the spread operator also consists of 3 dots. And basically it allows us to spread elements on an iterable object, e.g. map, arrays, so on and so forth. There are some subtle differences between rest parameters and spread operators. When it comes to the rest parameter, it must be the last item in the parameter list. But when it comes to the spread operators, it can basically be anywhere. I have declared 2 arrays, and let us say that I want to add the value of array 1 to array 2. I can simply just use the spread operator, the 3 dots, then the name of the array 1. And when we console the result of array 2, you can see that we are getting an array of 8 elements, which is array 2 including the elements from array 1. And as we have mentioned, you can add the array anywhere using the spread operator. So in this case, it was at the beginning of array 2. We can also add it at the end. And you can see it works as expected. We can also choose to add it immediately after 5. And it also works as expected. Maybe just one major difference between the rest parameter and the spread operator is the rest parameter basically returns an array, whereas the spread operator returns a list. Before the spread operator, in case we were told to merge the 2 arrays, we will probably reach for some prototypal chain to have access to the array methods in order to merge the 2 arrays. An example that comes to mind is probably to use array.prototype.push. I'll go with apply because the second argument is an array. Then I'll have array 1, which will be the main array that will be merged, which will be the main array, and I will be merging array 2 into array 1. Then for the second parameter, I will pass in array 2. And when we log the result of that, we can see that we are getting the same effect. So 1, 2, 4, 5 to 8, which is probably what we expect. We can probably shorten this further by removing the array.prototype and just having an empty array. And that also works as expected. But we are writing a lot of code just to achieve something very simple. So in the case of ES6, in case we want to merge these 2 arrays, we will just have array 1, push, no need for apply. Then we just spread array 2. And that is a very, very neat solution, very short and very clean. If you agree with me, you can leave a comment below. So that is all you need to know about the spread operator. In case you have found value in this video, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment below. There is also a link to my notes in the description section of this video. Thank you and see you soon.